So, bit of a cock up on the camera, so we have to start again. Michael's asked me to take some video of some of my motorbikes, so we dug a few out. Been collecting since the early 90s, well before that really. So here we have first one out of the garage, Cagiva Elephant 900cc, carburetted model V-twin. This is modelled on the Paris-Dakar bike. The Paris-Dakar bike was called a Marathon, Cagiva Marathon, but this is the Elephant. You can see why it's called an elephant, because it's so big. Imagine chucking this around the desert in the sand and getting stuck and hauling it out. It's some bike, very quick in the day. It's a 93 model this, but the bike came out a bit before that. I found this bike in Blackpool. It was cheap. Its underpinnings were a bit rusty and horrible, but the bodywork is original. And it's done a fair few miles, 56,000 miles. Had it stripped and the engine bead blasted and painted, and the head took off it just to see what the bores were like, and it was fine. And it's a great bike to ride, very comfortable, big old beast. Let's just quickly go to the Ducati Monster, which is almost its cousin, because Ducati and Cagiva were owned by the same family, the same business. Cagiva being, CA being Castiglione, the Castiglione brothers, GI being Giovanni, another partner, and VA, Varese Cagiva. And they bought Ducati, and these bikes have the same motor. They both have the 900 V-twin. So you can see how nice a bike this is. This was a bike I found in Laxey. It was in a bit of a state. It was tatty, but it was cheap. And I had it quite a while before we got round to getting it fettled like this. A friend of mine, Andy Piercy, did all the work on it. So stripped it right down to the bare bones. Engine was bead blasted and painted before being checked out. The frame was painted, and also the bodywork. Rather than use standard Ducati red, we thought we'd have something still in the Italian style, still the sort of same look as it had before, but we've used Alfa Romeo red, metallic red, which is quite a nice colour. You see it sparkling in the sunshine there. And we chopped the tail off. The tail came out here, so we chopped that off and used a lot of titanium nuts and bolts and carbon fibre and nice levers, adjustable levers, etc, etc. It's a great bike to ride, it really is, and it makes a nice noise as well. Let's just fire it up, see if she'll fire up. Oh, look at that, straight away on the button, and you'll hear the characteristic rattle of the Ducati dry clutch. You think the engine's going to fall apart. Pull the clutch in, it'll stop. There we go. Beautiful V-twin, lovely bike. Let's just nip back to the KTM. This is the KTM 1190 Adventure. I had a 950 Adventure when they first came out, probably the first road bike that KTM made, because they were renowned for off-road bikes. So they made the 950 and I bought one. Had a few problems with it, teething problems, because it was a new bike. Not on the market before, but it was a good bike when I had it. And then they brought out the 990, which was fuel injection. The 950 was carburetted. The 990 was fuel injection, and I bought the sport version because I didn't want the little low-down hairdresser's version. I wanted the man's version, the sport version with the high suspension, which was fine. I could manage it back in the day, but as I got older it became a bit of a handful. And then this one came along. This is the 1190. It's still the LC8 V-twin motor, but instead of having carburetors, it's now fully fuel injection with a computer, and the computer makes it produce about 150 brake, which is probably the most powerful bike that I have. So it's all controlled by computer and scrolling and God knows what. You can set it up to do all sorts of things. It's got adjustable suspension, tells you the fuel range, how far you've gone, that sort of thing, trip distance, air temperature, battery condition, oil temperature, tyre pressure once you're moving, heated grips, every comfort you can imagine, getting ready to go away on it. So we've got a nice comfy sheepskin, helps with the travelling, with the cramps, and underneath that is an Airhawk air seat. So that means we can do a bit of distance work. What else have we got? Well, BMW R100 RS. Back in the day, this was a super bike. This bike was about £4 grand when you could buy something like a GSXR 1100 for, I don't know, £1,200–1,500, and it would outperform this. But this was the ultimate tourer of the day. You can see it's quite a big bike, and the interesting part of it is it has a fairing, fully fitted factory fairing. The first bike to come for sale with a fairing from the factory, and it was designed in a wind tunnel. It is still an exceptional piece of design. When it's raining, if it is raining, you get wet, but you only get your shoulders wet because the rain comes up here off your shoulders, and of course you get a bit of spray on your feet. But other than that, you're very well protected. Boxer, flat twin, 1000cc, shaft drive. Great bike. I had one of these back in the 80s, same colour, same model, and this one came up. A gentleman in Colby who was getting on a bit in his 80s and was no longer able to ride it. It had been in his garage for a while. It had no brakes and it was in a sorry state, been knocked about, and we got my mate Andy to tidy it up and put it all back together. So it's a really nice bit of kit. So they're the ones that I've hauled out. Let's just go through what we've got in here now. BMW R1200C. What is it? It's a cruiser. Why is it here? Well, they're famous bikes, these. Let me just show you something in the mirror. 007? What's that got to do with anything? Well, this was in the film Tomorrow Never Dies, the James Bond film, with the young Japanese lady Michelle Yeoh, who played Wei Lin. And you may remember the famous scene with the helicopter where they're riding through the streets and they pull a big cable and pull the helicopter down into the ground. BMW gave the film crew 15 of these bikes, all publicity of course. They gave them 15. They got 3 back in running order. How about that? Harley Davidson V-twin. It's a V-rod, this model. It's a water-cooled V-twin 1190cc. Not loved by Harley purists who like the old air-cooled engines, but it still sounds a little bit like a Harley, but it's got a Porsche design motor, fabulous motor, really full of grunt, but you can ride it at low speed. It's got a belt drive. It's foot forward, of course, takes a bit of getting used to, but nice bike, nice bike. Then we've got this absolutely huge Honda. You don't see many of these because they only made a few thousand. They were made in the Goldwing factory in Ohio in America. In 2004, they made about 4,000 of them. When they were new, they were about $25,000. They reckon Honda lost money on every one. They reckon they should have been $100,000. Look at that radiator. Absolutely incredible. Huge radiator for an 1800cc flat 6 boxer motor. It's got enough power to plough a field with. And it's got this amazing front suspension. It's a trailing link. Lots of people think, oh, leading link suspension. It's not the leading link, it's trailing link, because this is the trail here. This is the fork, and the suspension trails behind, the axle trails behind the fork. And when you're riding, all this linkage is on the move, and you can see here these two what look like shock absorbers. One is a shock absorber, but the other one, the identical one, is the spring. Then we've got a Triumph Daytona 600, 4-cylinder, inline, V&M livery, very successful at the TT back in the day. I can't remember when, but it was a great bike, still is, very, very quick. Triumph Thunderbird, 3-cylinder, 900cc inline. So we've gone flat twin, V-twin, flat 6, 4 inline, 3-cylinder inline, 4-stroke, and next to it a Kawasaki KH250, 3-cylinder, 250cc, 2-stroke. What's next? Bimotor Mantra. Some people say this is the ugliest bike that they've ever seen. Very limited production. It has the 900 Ducati V-twin engine in it, the same as the Monster, the same as the Cagiva Elephant. Why did I buy that? Well, it wasn't an awful lot of money. It's got 1,000 miles on it. I think I paid £4,000 for it. You don't buy bimotors for £4,000. Normally, a bimotor, they're so specialised at 10 grand, 12 grand, 15 grand. The world's your lobster. Interesting bike. I haven't ridden it much. I have ridden it, but not a lot. Then we got a Suzuki Sandbike. I'm sorry these are all jammed in, but space is a premium here. Suzuki Sandbike RV 125, single cylinder. It's got a big fat back tyre so you can ride it on the beach and it doesn't sink. A bit of a novelty bike, but nice little thing. Then a Honda GB500 TT, built to look like a British single. 500cc twin port motor. Not an awful lot of go in it, but a pretty little bike, looks good. Next to it, Cagiva Elephant. Looks like an insect on steroids. Sorry, not a Cagiva Elephant, Cagiva Grand Canyon. This is the successor to the Cagiva Elephant. Very much the same trail bike style, big comfy tourer. It is what it is, it wasn't expensive. Aprilia Moto 6.5. Cozy little bike, nice to ride. Has a 650 Rotax single engine. Designed by a French guy called Philippe Starck, who is renowned for designing kitchens and kitchen appliances and stuff like that. And I tell everybody that it's made from old microwaves, but it's not a bad little thing. 650 Rotax, it'll go every day. Then we've got something really special here. This is a Harris Ducati. What's a Harris Ducati? Well, the Harris brothers made frames because back in the day, Japanese bikes didn't handle very well. So they made frames for Japanese bikes, for Italian bikes, you name it, they made them. So this bike is a kit, basically. You get the seat unit, the tank, and the fairing, and the frame. Everything else you add to it. So you put your own motor in it, put your own suspension on it, put your own wheels. So this particular one has a Ducati 1000cc Mille engine, Mille being 1000 in Italian. This was fitted in the Mike Hailwood replica from back in the 70s. It's a pretty tough motor, but very rare. The motor itself now is extremely rare and valuable. And like I said, it's a bevel drive. The bevel drive being in there, the bevel drive converts the rotary motion coming up from the crankcase to the camshafts and turns it through 90 degrees. The alternative on the modern bikes is that it's a belt used, but this is perhaps a bit more robust than a belt. It's a wonderful bike. It's not particularly powerful, but it handles really nice, and it's got these fabulous billet 6-pot brakes. They're really good. A few bits and pieces down here. We've got a funny little Scopa French model with a Yamaha engine, Scopa 4 trick bike. Honda Z50R, belonged to my son when he was young. That's how he cut his teeth on a motorbike. And then a BSA Gold Star. Found it in a shed in Annika. Didn't pay a lot for it. It hadn't been run for 30 years. And I gave it to my pal Tom on a Wednesday, and I went to see him on the Friday. There was lots of bits missing off it. I said, what do you think of the Gold Star? And he said, do you want to hear it running? And he had it running within hours of me giving it to him. He's a real Gold Star fan and loves it. And this was the bike of the day. This is what everybody hankered for. And I have to say, I was amazed once I rode it, how nice it is to ride. It really handles well. It's a really, really nice bike. Had the engine rebuilt, but everything else is as it was when I got it and hadn't been touched for 30 years. I'm sure there are purists who'll say, oh, it shouldn't have that bit on it, and it shouldn't have that bit on it, but anyway. We've got a couple of trials bikes here. CCM, which has a BSA B40 engine, I think. Rare as hen's teeth, they only made 123. We'll miss that old thing, that's a bit of a shed. Triton, Triumph engine in a Norton frame. Norton frame being the featherbed, which was renowned for its handling, and the Triton being the best engine of the day, so everybody did that, put the Triumph engine in. There's no formula for it, you did what you wanted, so no two Tritons look the same, they're all different. But lovely bike, what cafe racer style. Honda NSR, no, NS400R, not an NSR, NS400R, Grand Prix replica of the 500, but this is made into a road going one. 3-cylinder, 2-stroke. It's got a very nice registration. It's V3 MAN. And next to it is another 400 Honda, but this time it's the VFR 400R, built like a little sewing machine. It's really, the motor's fabulous in it. Runs really nice and revs like, I don't know what you think that it's never going to stop revving. Beautiful little bike. Next to its big brother, the VFR 750R, or the RC30 as it's better known. This is the iconic bike of all time. It's won many TTs, carried Joey Dunlop to victory a lot of times. In fact, we have a picture here of Joey. I'm not sure, I think that's an RC30, but they did have RVFs, etc., signed by Joey Dunlop. But really is something else. I've had that bike longer than any of the others. I've had that since 1991. It's an 89 bike. It's fabulous. What can you say? So many superlatives for it. Next to that, we've got a couple of Supermotos, a Husky Knox. That's number 2 of 300. That's all they made. And next to that, we've got next to the Husky, we've got a KTM Supermoto factory replica, 1 of 38, for racing only. It's not road registered, and you just don't see them. Honda 404 from the 70s. I had one brand new, cost me £784 in the day. Paid a bit more for this one. This one's been restored, and they were one of the favourite bikes that people enjoyed from back in the day. Next to it, Honda CB77, parallel twin, 305cc if my memory serves me rightly, and this is a 60s bike. I think it's a 67, this model. When I got it, it was in pretty good nick, but there were lots of little niggles that weren't perfect. So I got Andy to take it on board, and he did quite a bit of work to it. The paintwork was okay. I don't think he had to paint it, but he stripped the engine, and there were some nightmares in the engine. It was full of sealant and God knows what, and I think it might well have given up the ghost if it had had a bit of pressure put on it. But lovely bike. That was the bike that devastated the British bike industry, because it was the first of the Japanese bikes that would top 100 mile an hour, and the guy from Triumph, whose name escapes me, said There's nothing to fear from the Japanese bikes. They can't build big bikes. There's nothing to worry about. How wrong he was. Next to that, an Air Harley Davidson. Harley Davidson made little bikes like that. Well, they didn't really. They wanted to, so the easiest way to build that kind of bike was to buy a factory, which they did. Air Macchi was an Italian factory. Air, meaning that they built aeroplanes, and Mr. Macchi was the owner. This model is an Ala Verde, 5-speed, 250. Tiny bike, as you can see. Really nice to ride, makes a lovely noise from a single cylinder horizontal engine. You can see how tiny it is. Look at what's next to it. Honda CBX 6-cylinder, the mighty Honda 6. Another one of a Honda, showing what it could do. Really fabulous, fabulous bike. Excessive. Look how wide the engine is. The engine is massive. And these skinny little forks, tiny, tiny forks on it. This one is the American version. You can tell because it's got the longer handlebars. The British ones are a bit shorter here, but I like that. It handles better. This bike, I found it in Kirkmichael. The farmer had it in his barn. It was covered in dust and potato sacks and chicken crap and God knows what. And we dug it out and got it running. 6-into-1 exhaust that makes one unholy din. What a fabulous bit of kit. 1979, by the way. Next to that we have the iconic Ducati 916. This was the bike. Still is, in my opinion, the best looking bike in the world. Look at the shape of it. Look how gorgeous the shape is. Really, really fabulous. Looks like nothing else. 916 SP. SP being sport production, it meant that it was the modifications that were on this were put there so that the bike could be homologated for superbike racing. They had to sell so many bikes with the modifications to be able to race. So this was the SP. This was the first of the SPs on the 916 series. 916 SP, SPS, SP3. All different ones, but this is the original 916 from 1995. I've owned it since new. It's got how many miles? It's got 11,000 miles on it, nearly worn out, but what a beautiful bike. And you get on it and it's just so rideable. The V-twin motor is absolutely fabulous. It's a stunning, stunning bike. And next to it, its predecessor, the Ducati SP5. Now this is the 888, same motor virtually as the 916, same configuration, V-twin, and this is the SP5, of which they made 500, and this is number 159. It won the World Superbike in 93, I think, 92 or 93. I think the guy who rode it was Giancarlo Filappa. And of course Carl Fogarty cut his teeth on the 888 before going on to the 916 and achieving the massive success that he did. So that's about it, apart from this little thing here. Look at this. This is a sectionalized VFR 750 motor. It was done by Andy Piercy, a clever guy, clever engineer. You have to cut all these bits, but you have to cut it so that it still holds the things together, still holds the pistons in, and the cam followers and everything. And so clever. But the interesting part of it is it runs after a fashion. Ignition on, and here we go. How about that? Lovely bit of engineering, absolutely amazing. So so that's the bike collection, as well as the bikes. You've got assorted Memorabilia. This is people that I've helped racing. My pal Dean Harrison and his son Glenn and his other son Nathan, very successful bike rider. Bernie Lund, famous founder of road and track motorcycles. Some old guy on a KTM Supermoto, I think it might be me. All this junk of various trophies that I've won over the years. Oil can collection, found a lot in a box and polished them up. Signed Agostini versus Hailwood. Hailwood wasn't around, unfortunately, but it was signed by John McGuinness and Giacomo Agostini back in when was it, 67? So it must have been 2007. Some pictures, some posters, TT posters, which are becoming quite rare. Bit of fairing of Troy Bayliss's Superbike Ducati. Some old crash helmets that you can no longer use because once they get a certain age you have to bin them. Picture of my pal Guy Martin, Madman. Some of our old Ducati bits, bit of TT memorabilia. Something that I've built up, an old damaged bit of TT scoreboard. It didn't look anything like that when I got my hands on it. It was just a few planks. Mike Hailwood, of course, on the 500 Honda at Quarterbridge. Some leathers that probably don't fit me anymore. Signed t-shirt by Joey Dunlop, unfortunately fading a bit. RC30 anniversary, Hailwood t-shirt from back in the day, sports motorcycles. Nice picture there of my son Sean with Pier Francesco Keeley. So the top one was at Assen when he was about 10, and the bottom one was at the Palace about when he was about 18. So you see the difference between them. Oh, and a nice picture here that Sean did the Scott trial and finished 80 miles in 7 hours 13 minutes and non-stop riding, non-stop trials riding. Fabulous, really fabulous. So there we are. That's about all I've got to show you. There is some more, but they're in a different garage, and at some stage we might get them out and have a look at them. But until then, that's about it. I hope you enjoyed looking at them. I just love bikes. It's something that's been with me all my life. I think I started riding with a pal on a BSA Bantam when I was 11, and you had to cycle to the petrol station to get a gallon of petrol, and then you were allowed to ride, and we rode and rode until that gallon of petrol was used up, and then the bike got put away till the next time. So I've had a long association with bikes. They give me a lot of pleasure. I'm off on this bike here next week to Ireland. We've got a week tour in Ireland, which we've done dozens of times before, and if we get this fantastic weather, we hope that we'll be alright. Look at the day it is. The Isle of Man. You can't beat it on a nice day. Absolutely stunning. The world capital of motorbike racing. That's it for now, folks. Bye bye.